Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about this carburetor mod that's going on. So this is the impulse line, and it just goes on that nipple of the crankcase. Now that impulse line is important because that is what runs your fuel pump. So on some stall, that nipple's gonna sticking like this, comes up through there. Some stalls, that impulse line is somewhere in there, which would be like this 390. This one here would be your fuel line. This one would be your impulse line. Now if we look on the carb for the MS361, there's only a fuel line. So where the impulse line actually goes on this one is, it goes to the crankcase nipple where I showed you, but then it goes now that's not on there super good, but for trying to do it one-handed, that's good enough. And then if you look up there, there's a little hole right there. Where that comes into play is this one here is the stock, well, it's a Chinese, but this is the 361 carb. That little tiny hole right there lines up with that hole there. Now granted, I don't have the rubber gasket and all that on there, but that hole lines up with that hole. So on this carburetor, the fuel pump, which is down here, gets its pulse through this port here, instead of this one gets its pulse through this line. Now there's a couple different ways to do this mod. So this is also a Chinese clone carburetor on this one. You can see the hole here, but this hole is not drilled all the way out. So there's two ways you can do this. One, you can leave this bottom plate on, and you can, instead of running that impulse line to the back of here, you run it through the hole, and then it just connects to here, which is fine. You can do that, but you have to do some slight modifications and bend your throttle linkage, because it hits your impulse line, comes through right where your throttle linkage needs to. If you're going to use a stock Stihl carburetor, I would probably go that route. But on this clone here, I don't know if they're planning on people doing what is happening right here or not. If I take this apart, you can see, grab my pointer, that hole is halfway drilled. This hole is here already. If you had a stock, a true OEM 390 carburetor, that hole's not going to be there. And I don't know about that one, but that one for sure will not be there. So you can either reroute the impulse line and bend the throttle linkage, or you come through here with a drill bit, you drill that out till it meets that hole, and now this saw will get its impulse from the original spot, and you take this bottom plate off and you swap this bottom plate back over here. And that is how the two ways you can get around you can do your impulse line. Let me just take the bottom off of this one so you can see. Maybe. So this one in my hands is the 390. So we can see this port is drilled. You can see that the Allen wrench goes right through. Let me hold up bottom to bottom of the two, and we're going to compare them. They are pretty well identical. You can see they even got the same shape. This one's just not drilled all the way through. Alright, I just put these back together. I haven't swapped anything yet. I think what I'm going to do is I am going to drill out the hole in the 390 carburetor. Take this plate and put it on here. And the reason I'm going to do that is I think it's easier to take a little drill bit and drill that hole out than it is going to be to try to rebend that throttle linkage. The other reason is now it's not an if, it's when I have to pull the carburetor off to do carburetor work. Now I got to worry about getting two fuel lines lined up when I slide this on, which not a huge deal, but knowing my luck, I'm going to push it in and it's not going to go on, and then that's going to fall behind there, and now it's going to be a pain in the butt to fish it back out. Whereas if I do it where it's the way this model saw is designed, then all I got to do is worry about lining up the fuel line, and I know that cannot get pushed back behind this plastic to where I lose it. So that's the first modification you have to do. The second is we look at the top here. We got two different top plates. And actually, I wish I had the piece to show you that this one goes into. In my unboxing video, I was actually shorted the base air filter housing. So the carburetor goes on. It's all like this. There's a piece of plastic that slides over, and then that's what the air filter bolts to. That wasn't in the box, and I went back and I rewatched my video of me unboxing it, and I can't find it. They just have to take my word. This is the one you need. Now, the tops of these are the same. So what I can do is I can take this one loose, take this one loose, and I can swap this over to the 390 carb. That's an easy fix. Now the next fix, we talked about it a little bit, is these two choke engagements are different. This one sticks down further, sticks out further. This one's a little more shallow. So to make this work, we have to, what we're going to do is we're going to remove the butterfly from this choke shaft. And we're going to take this choke shaft out. We're going to remove the butterfly from this one and take this choke shaft out and basically just throw it off to the side, because this is the carb we want to put on, because this is the 390 carb. And so then we'll take this choke shaft and put it into this carburetor. But the problem we run into is this shaft, this butterfly here is smaller than this one. This one's bigger. This shaft is made to take the small butterfly. If we put the small butterfly in a big hole, obviously it doesn't seal, and you don't get your full choke effect. Now when I get this out, I'll show you. What we'll do is we'll take this off, we'll take this out, we'll hold this butterfly up to this shaft, we'll take a file, and we'll modify this choke shaft to accept the bigger butterfly. The throttle is a little different. You know, we got a solid hole versus this guy. I'd have to get a caliper out. I think these are the same size. We might switch this. There's some guys on YouTube and some of the forums saying that these two styles are interchangeable. We might kind of play with that. I think we covered the basics of what needs to be switched. And when we talk about this mod, I think I actually left my sheet out. The reason we're going to this mod is airflow, not necessarily fuel delivery. That's probably a small part of it. We can unscrew these screws to allow more fuel in, but we can't make this opening bigger here. Well, this opening, you can just see it in the video, it's bigger. I don't know how much bigger, but it's bigger. Now, if you weren't doing any other mods to this, especially if you weren't going to port the muffler, because what porting the muffler does is it allows more air in. So when you port a muffler, you also have to retune your carburetor, because now it's going to be running too lean because you got more air movement. So if you were to just keep everything stock, I'd probably just roll with the stock carburetor. Dyno Joe, he was on, when he dynoed some, when he throttle response, there was a delay, a dip in the OEM carb or the OEM style. And when he went to the 390 carb or the 440 carb, it didn't have that dip. Now, don't ask me what drill bit size I'm using. Can't read it anymore. Too lazy to go get a caliper to tell you. Basically, I found a drill bit that fits snug in that hole. And that's what I'm going to use for this one. I feel it just pop through. Now, I deliberately put the bottom side of this down low, so all the metal shavings fell down, so I didn't have to worry about them getting in the carburetor. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off the screen and blow it out real quick. So now you can see my Allen wrench come down in them impulse hole there. So now if I can find the rest of my stuff. We can come over here. I went ahead and I marked the different parts of the carburetor just so you all can kind of keep track on the screen, because it's probably harder for you all to keep track than me. So now we have our 390 carburetor with our 361 base on, because now our little impulse hole is drilled out. So now I think I'm gonna just go ahead and take off the top. We'll make sure that there's no surprises underneath that are different that I'm not anticipating, but I believe they're going to be the same. To me, it seems like a lot of people actually mistake the part that we just took off. You can see down the bottom right screen. They think that's the fuel pump, and that is it's actually not the case. I get why you would think that, but this diaphragm is what actually this pushes on the needle. To open the needle, it'll allow more fuel into the carburetor. So this senses the vacuum, the pulsing on the intake side, which moves this up and down, which allows that needle to open. There's some slight differences on the inside, but really, like I said, the only thing that this does is run the needle to allow more fuel in. This one kind of tore a little bit when it came off. We'll see. Let's see if this one tears. At all. So this is the 390 carb that we want to put 361 top on. Start to get this butterfly out. So we're going to remember that I'll probably make a note for myself. How that goes up. These notches in these butterflies line up with the jets. So the jet comes here. So moving air creates negative pressure, right? Negative pressure draws fuel out of the jet. See, if you look on this side too, it's a smaller, but the smaller side is in line with the low idle or the low side jet. But anyways, when this is shut, when you choke this, it's actually pulling extra fuel through the high side to start this. Alright, got that little clip off. So now the choke shaft slides right out. I'm going to put the other pieces just back on this carburetor for now, off video, just so I don't mess anything else up when I'm messing with this. Okay, so this is back to the 361 carb. Helps if I go to the right side. All right. Butterfly is off. Because I'm lazy and don't want to get the right tools for this. Use that to pull that little. Come off there, you little bugger. All right. So now here's what we got to do to shaft is same distance, right? But this flat spot is ground bigger for the bigger butterfly. So obviously this butterfly too big. Believe it or not, it probably took me longer to find that Sharpie that I just had in my hand that was pretty well in camera view than it did to do this whole carburetor. So I marked 2 little lines with the Sharpie, and basically that is how much we need to file off of this shaft to accept the bigger choke. So we're going to see how this goes. I just got me a square file here. We don't need to go down this way. We just need to go down the center of it to maintain this flat line down this way. So I'm going to sit here, I'm going to hold this down, I'm going to push down on the file. And I'm just going to go like that until I get to where we need to go. So instead of recording myself filing for 20 minutes, I'll just restart the video when I get it to where I want it. Okie dokie, so you can see my terrible little filing job I did there. But now the bigger butterfly fits in there just fine. Now where I filed on the edge of this, there's going to be a little bit of a burr on each end. So I'm going to dress that up because that's going to rub in the carburetor body and it might be stiff. We're just going to get that all smooth again. Just took a little emery cloth and cleaned them burrs up. It seems to fit pretty well. So this hook part of the spring here, sorry, I keep getting that thing on it. It hooks there. And the other pokey side, a little hole in the side of the carburetor body. Spin that around. Well, before we go too much farther with that, better get our little C-clip back on. Maybe. If I can hold on to it. See if I can send this thing shooting across the room. Oop, got it on there. So now we're going to wind this clockwise, I believe, because we want spring pressure to return that to the open position. Yeah. I think I just had it in a little bit of a bind. It can be kind of cantankerous to get it all lined up to where it's moving smooth, because you get it a little off centered, it's gonna mess up. So these little notches here are actually supposed to help center it on top of the shaft there. So, you can see it's working fine. I think I might just go ahead and switch the throttle shaft, just because. little stiffer. Now, let's see. I think these are identical. Yeah, those are identical. So, we'll make sure we have 390 carb body. Gotta manually make sure the spring's wound because this one is trying to hold it closed all the time. And it always adds some Loctite to these little screws. They actually come with Loctite on them. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen one of these little screws fall out. When they do, they can kind of make a mess of your engine. So I know I spent all that time getting it aligned. And I was going to do this off video because I was too stubborn to go back outside and get my Loctite, but figured heck, might as well do it on video so y'all can see it. Alright, I think we'll verify we have a 390 carb body. I moved the 361 top plate, 361 top cover, bottom cover. We have switched both the choke and throttle, and I put Loctite on both butterfly screws. I think that little carburetor mod is done for now until I get the rest of it put together, and then we'll come back and obviously we'll have to tune it and do all those fun things.